the chairman. Members shall not sit or stand with their backs towards the presiding officer. Now over to the proceedings.
Do you wish there were a way your community could get funding to improve a school, health center, sports program, and more? There is! It's the Constituency Development Fund. Here are a few things you probably didn't know about the CDF and how you can make it work better for you. The CDF policy promotes citizen participation in community development and protection of taxpayers' funds. It outlines that MPs are to meet with citizens at least once every 2 years to agree on the projects needed. You know, it used to be once a year? We should really go back to that. Projects developed without community consultation are not to be approved by the bipartisan CDF Parliamentary Committee. There are 26 government agencies that implement projects, usually for a small fee. Funds are provided directly from the Office of the Prime Minister to the implementing agency, not through the Member of Parliament. The CDF unit monitors project costs and implementation, so if you have questions about how the CDF are run in your community, contact them. To ensure no one project or community gets all the funds, there are 6 project categories with spending limits for each. There must be no less than 5 and no more than 20 projects each year. To learn more, visit jampja.org to view your MP's CDF info and tell them how this fund has impacted you. If you don't see your MP's CDF reports, then put them under little pressure, man. Call, tweet, email. Ask them when they'll submit it and when is the next CDF meeting. Change is possible. It's already happening. What we need is you. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Bank in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
Motorists, as Minister of Justice, I appeal to you, obey the road code, pay your ticket on time, and only go to court if the ticket is being contested. Close to 80% of matters coming to the parish courts are for traffic breaches. Let's work together to make our roads safe and ease the burden on our courts.
Every student attending Heart and Estate Trust under the New Care Initiative will get $15,000 each month to help cover their travel expenses to the Heart School they're attending and get an extra $13,000 each week while they're training.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Since 2016, 156,000 more Jamaicans are working. This is more than any other time in our history. Your government is caring for you. No more guarantors for student loan. Your government cares about your education, and we don't want you to ever have to worry about going to university. The Students' Loan Bureau has a loan for you so you can focus on your future.
Heart and Estate Trust now offers a $100,000 grant to heart-trained individuals running businesses for over a year. They'll also assist with business planning, marketing, skill enhancement, and other support. Your government is building a caring economy for you.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Your safety and security continue to be our priority. We are seeing a downward trend in major crimes, and we are investing $650 million in technology improvement for our police force to provide greater coverage across Jamaica by 2028.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
We care about our minimum wage earners. That is why we increased the minimum from the previous increase of 13,000 to now 15,000. And as our economy continues to improve, you can look forward to even more increases. Your government is caring for you.
Most Jamaicans will tell you corruption in politics is deep-rooted, and I just saw it said, and nothing can do about that. But actually, there is, and another 152 countries are doing it. It's called asset declaration, and it works best where citizens themselves understand it and help to ensure the law is enforced. Corruption happens when public officials abuse their power to benefit themselves, family, or associates. Jamaica's Integrity Commission Act was designed to prevent corruption, and here are 5 things you should know. 1. Under this law, every year MPs and senators must report what they earn, own, and owe, and if they don't, they'll be sanctioned. 2. Their report must include the same kind of information for their wife or husband and children. 3. If they get a gift worth more than $100,000 from anyone who's not family, they must declare it. 4. A summary of the declarations of our Prime Minister and opposition leader must be published where the public can read it. 5. Parliamentarians can now be prosecuted by the Integrity Commission. They can be fined up to $2 million or serve up to 2 years in prison if they don't file the declaration or if they give false information, and $500,000 for not filing on time or ignoring requests for information. Unfortunately, our parliamentarians made changes that prevent the public from knowing when they've broken the law or when they're being investigated. We really need to change that. Visit jampja.org to find out more about the Act and to track if your MP is obeying this law. If they're not, JAMP's MP Tracker will help you write, tweet, or call your MP. Ask them, you submit your declaration yet? The Integrity Commission clear you? Let's help the Parliament stay honest. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Bank in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
Every student attending Heart and STA Trust under the New Care Initiative will get $15,000 each month to help cover their travel expenses to the Heart School they're attending and get an extra $13,000 each week while they're training.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Apply to the Heart and STA Trust. Learn a new skill and expand your horizons. Your government has made it completely free to you. Jamaicans, practice proper disposal of garbage, and if items can be reused, recycle them. We all have a part to play in protecting our environment from pollution. We are building Jamaica.
It must stop. It have to stop. Gang violence is not the solution to our problem. It will only cause pain and suffering. Let's find non-violent ways to solve our conflict. Let's work together to create a safer and peaceful Jamaica. Let's all live good.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
Apply to the Heart and STA Trust. Learn a new skill and expand your horizons. Your government has made it completely free to you.
Can you imagine getting a marketable skill for free? Your government has made it possible for anyone wanting to learn a skill to get free training through the Heart and STA Trust. Learn a new skill and expand your horizons.
Good things are happening in Jamaica. Our unemployment remains the lowest it has ever been, which means more Jamaicans are working and can provide for themselves and their families. Your government is building Jamaica.
Jamaica's economy is in the best shape ever. Everybody abroad and abroad talk about it. Your government is investing in our hospitals, parks, community clinics, roads, and water infrastructure.
Remember that big project the government announced them was going to from when? You ever catch yourself a wonder what happened to it? Stop wonder like an outsider and start move like the country belong to you. You have a right to publicly owned information, and the Access to Information Act gives you that power. I know you have enough questions about how government are run or not run, so let me show you how it works. Say mosquito spraying going on in your community, your children asthmatic and you want to know what chemicals are in it. Or what about that Auditor General report on a public official getting twice his salary with no proper approval? Is your taxes and you want to know if they paid it back? First, do some basic searching to see what is already on government websites. If you don't see what you're looking for, make a formal ATI request by completing the application form on the ATI site or sending a letter or email. And remember, you don't have to say why you need it. It is your right to know. Make sure you send your request to the right agency, and once they confirm receipt, they get 30 calendar days to provide the information, a maximum of 60 if extra time is needed. Yes, I know you want access to everything, but sensitive documents are protected from the public for up to 20 years. For example, documents
Good things are happening in Jamaica. Our unemployment remains the lowest it has ever been, which means more Jamaicans are working and can provide for themselves and their families. Your government is building Jamaica.
Welcome to PBCJ's coverage of the sitting of the Senate. I'm Simone Absalom Gale, and I'll provide a brief outline of what's expected to take place during the sitting. But before we begin, did you know that a parliamentary term is divided into sessions by legislative year? On the agenda for this session, the Road Traffic License Duties Order 2024 resolution. That's what's on the agenda. It should be noted that elements of the day's agenda can be changed, moved, or replaced. Before we go, here are a few things you should bear in mind if you plan to attend a session at Gordon House. No visitor shall create any act of disorder within the precincts of the House. No visitor shall be admitted to the House without obtaining an admission card. Visitors who remain within the precincts of the House during suspension of the session are asked to keep silent. No photography, videography, or sketching of the proceedings is allowed, unless so authorized by the presiding officer. And there should be no smoking inside the parliamentary building. Here are a few more interesting facts about the Houses of Parliament. Prorogation signals the end of a session of Parliament. The life or term of Parliament is 5 years, but it may be terminated earlier if a general election is called. Dissolution signals the end of the parliamentary term. When the Parliament is dissolved, all matters before it are terminated and all members vacate their seats. However, Cabinet ministers continue to carry out their functions until a new cabinet is named. Let's talk about parliamentary protocol. Parliamentary protocol requires that members observe certain rules, among which are the following. Members shall be present in the House a few minutes before the scheduled time of commencement of a sitting. Members shall cease all conversation and rise in their places when the Marshal announces the arrival of the presiding officer. Members shall bow to the presiding officer on entering or leaving the chamber. Members shall, at all times, address the presiding officer or, in committee, the chairman. Members shall not sit or stand with their backs towards the presiding officer. Now over to the proceedings.
Those in favor? Thank you very much. Senator Allen, sorry you're not here to be with us on this, which I think might very well be the last day of the meeting for 2024. I'm going to just ask the...
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Welcome, Senator Allen. I'm going to just ask the Senate to make a note of the passing of Her Ladyship, Mrs. Justice Sarah Thompson James. She resigned or retired from the Supreme Court bench in April of this year, having served this country in various capacities in the judicial area from late 1980s, I believe, or the early 80s, from clerk of court to resident magistrate, as it was at the time, Supreme Court judge. In those early days, she specialized in areas relating to justice and children. Joined the Supreme Court bench, acted in the Court of Appeal, retired recently, and was put to rest, I think, or laid to rest one day this week. And I asked the Senate just to make a note of her passing and her contribution to the judicial development of this country. Her life was an inspiration. I know that many of you would not know her, but she was an inspiration. And I will ask the clerk to make the appropriate note to the family just to say that we had mentioned her passing. Now, the other thing I want to say, which I need to just do it at this point in time, I got a communication addressed to me from the Integrity Commission on the 6th of November 2024, indicating that International Anti-Corruption Day on December 9, 2024 was being recognized under the theme Uniting the Youth Against Corruption, Shaping Tomorrow's Integrity. And the letter was signed by Mr. Greg Christie, which said in part, I would be honored if you could contribute a brief written message of approximately 200 words for inclusion in our supplement. So I was quite honored to receive this request, and I prepared my response. When the supplement came out, I couldn't help but notice that my response was not included in the supplement. So needless to say, I was rather taken aback, and I thought it might have been an oversight. But then now, I realized that I was written to by the Integrity Commission, because on the 28th of November, we wrote from the Parliament to say, please find attached message from the President of the Senate for International Anti-Corruption Day for inclusion in your supplement. But then I realized that an email was sent that says, I have been directed by the Integrity Commission to advise that it considers the Senate President International Anti-Corruption Day message submitted to the Commission for publication in its IACD newspaper supplement to be libelous. No. So here it is now. I prepare my message and I send it to the Integrity Commission. Hold on, man. And it says, I've been directed by the Integrity Commission to advise you that it consider the Senate President message submitted to the Commission for publication in the newspaper to be libelous. The message is therefore unsuited for publication by the Commission and will not be published. Well, you lick the nail upon the head, Senator Crawford. Because now, there is something. No, man, no, but no, because when I read the message, and I have lawyer friend, including, there is no libel in it, none whatsoever. But you see, let me say something, and in all seriousness, right? Sometimes when you criticize the management of individuals who are responsible for the day-to-day running of an institution, they take the criticism of the individual as criticism of the institution. And it is a flaw that people have because it's an ego thing. Because when I criticize the management of any person, I'm not criticizing the institution, I'm trying to save the institution from committing institutional suicide. So, Senator Crawford, you want me to read my response, right? Yes, man. So, no, man, so this is it. Since no, I don't need the protection of the House, you know, because I can publish it because it's not libelous. And this says no. Senator the Honorable Tom Tavares Finson, President of the Senate. Message for International Anti-Corruption Day. Theme, uniting the youth against corruption, shaping tomorrow's integrity. This is what the Integrity Commission has deemed libelous. Corruption is not only inimical to the moral consciousness of a nation, but the scourge has practical adverse consequences for the development agenda of any society. Good so far, right? Therefore, it is good that we are again observing International Anti-Corruption Day. I encourage all Jamaicans to become agents of positive change by taking a strong stance against corruption. It is encouraging that the government of Jamaica has passed several laws, including the Integrity Commission Act, in order to strongly support the anti-corruption fight. However, it is disappointing that the Integrity Commission in its current dispensation is perceived across major sections of the Jamaican society as having lost credibility. The slow rate of addressing matters which come before the commissions, the slow rate of addressing matters which come before the commission, anti-government comments by the Commission's Executive Director, inflammatory and puerile remarks by the Integrity Commission's Chairman, and the police revelation that a senior director of the Commission, who reportedly habitually transported wads of cash, refused to cooperate with the criminal investigations where he was allegedly robbed, have dealt a near mortal blow to the credibility of the Commission. It would be a significant boost to the perceived fairness and the anti-corruption fight in Jamaica should the current composition of the Integrity Commission be reconstructed. So you see, there is nothing libelous about that. And I don't feel that I should have been gagged, because I was gagged, you know. I don't feel that I should have been gagged by the Integrity Commission, if I can use Senator Brown's favorite phrase. I will not be gagged. And it is in the interest of democracy that my statement be placed on the record of the society. Senator, I'm not really entertaining any discussion on this, you know. Exactly. So I'll give you an opportunity later, but I'm going to move on. You can, if you want to discuss it. No, that is my prerogative right now. The Integrity Commission.
To disassociate itself from that statement.
But hello.
I can't say whether it's libelous or not, but it is highly inappropriate. That message was highly inappropriate, and I'm glad they rejected it, because it was highly inappropriate. And
But it wasn't sent on your behalf, Senator Bunting. Statements by ministers. Statements by ministers. Announcements.
Laid on the table of the Senate are the following. Annual report of the Nutrition Products Limited for the financial year 2019-2020. Annual report of the National Council on Education for the financial year 2017-2018. Annual report of the Early Childhood Commission for the financial year 2020-2021. Annual report of the Caribbean Maritime Institute for the financial year 2015-2016. Annual report of the National Education Trust for the financial year 2016-2017. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Jamaica International Free Zone Development Limited for the financial year 2018-2019. Annual report of the Overseas Examination Commission for the financial year 2019-2020. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Social Investment Fund for the financial year 2023-2024. Bank of Jamaica Monetary Policy Statement for 6 months ended September 2024. Integrity Commission report of investigation concerning irregularities in respect of the construction of a residential development located at 2 Wycliffe Close, Beverly Hills, Kingston 6, contrary to the terms of building permit issued to Estate Bridge Holdings Limited by the KSAMC. Integrity Commission report of investigation concerning allegations of an act or acts of corruption in respect of recovery of outstanding National Insurance Scheme contributions at the Westmoreland Parish Office of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security for the period 2022-2023, contrary to the Corruption Prevention Act and its indicative ruling. The National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection for the Catherine Estates Housing Development, Shrewber Phase 2 Housing Development, Savannah Park Housing Development, Order of 2024 under the National Housing Trust Act. The income tax percentage of electricity generated from renewable energy sources Order of 2024 and its resolution under the Income Tax Act. The Jamaica Gazette Supplement Proclamations, Rules and Regulations, 2925, Volume 147, dated Thursday, December 5, 2024, number 463, enclosing the Constitution of Jamaica. The Jamaica Gazette Supplement, Proclamations, Rules and Regulations, 2929, Volume 147, dated Thursday, December 5, 2024, number 464, enclosing the emergency powers specified areas in the Parish of St. Andrew Regulations 2024 under the Emergency Powers Act. The report of the Regulations Committee of the Senate on its deliberations on the National Housing Trust, Housing Benefits Special Selection, Roseneath Park Housing Development Order of 2024. And finally, by way of information, the report of the Standing Finance Committee of the whole House of Representatives, consisting of all members of the House, on the Bank of Jamaica monetary policy statement covering the 6 months period ended September 2024. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Senator Brown.
Yeah, thank you, sir. These are being tabled, the list has been tabled today, but I just want to know, when did the Parliament receive the reports at the bottom of the page, the one entitled Integrity Commission Report of Investigation concerning irregularities in respect to the construction of residential development located at 2 Whitecliff, Close, Beverly Hills, Kingston 6, contrary to the terms of the building thing, and whether or not this was delivered before or after the statement you indicated to us that the President sent to the Integrity Commission.
The report that you are discussing or requesting was delivered to the House of Parliament on the 4th of December. Hold on. So what you want to know now? No. You need a what? No, man. No, I'm not gag. Sorry, no, I'm not gagging anybody, man. Least of all, my
No,
friend
I'm just
Lambert.
saying that it would mean, therefore,
No,
that
but you don't. No, but
your
you
statement
know.
was issued before this report
Yes.
came. So nobody can accuse you of saying it's because this report, which implicates other people, why that puerile statement you issue was done. And I appreciate that, Mr. President.
And Senator Brown, I must say, we are happy to have you back with us. You took a bit of rest and we appreciate it. Lovely to see you. Bills brought from the Honorable House of Representatives, petitions, papers, reports from committees. Senator Brown.
Mr. President, I beg to lay on the table of the Senate a copy of the report of the Regulations Committee of the Senate on its deliberations on the National Housing Trust Housing Benefit Special Selection Roseneath Park Housing Development Order 2024.
Thank you very much, Senator Brown. Notices of motions given orally. Senator Hill, I'm recognizing you from a seat other than your own.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we have a number of notices of motions to be given orally. The first one is the appointment of the Joint Select Committee to review the bill to amend the Constitution. So, Mr. President, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move, be it resolved that the Honorable Senate appoint a select committee comprising the following members: Senator Charles Sinclair, Senator Ransford Bryan, Senator Shireen Golden Campbell, Senator Peter Bunting, Senator Donna Scott Motley, to sit jointly with a similar committee appointed by the Honorable House of Representatives to consider and report on the bills shortly entitled the Constitution Amendment, Republic Act 2024. Mr. President, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion. The second is the report from the Regulations Committee, which of course Senator Bryan will do, referral of the National Housing Trust resolutions to Regulations Committee. So, Mr. President, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following motion. Be it resolved that the following orders be referred to the Regulations Committee of the Senate for consideration and report. 1. The National Housing Trust, Housing Benefits, Savannah Park Housing Development, Order 2024. Number 2, Mr. President, the National Housing Trust, Housing Benefits Special Selection, Catherine Estate Housing Development, Batch 2, Order 2024. And 3, Mr. President, the National Housing Trust, Housing Benefits Special Selection, Shrewsbury Phase 2 Housing Development, Order 2024, all under the National Housing Trust Act, and which were laid on the table of the House on the 10th day of December, 2024. Mr. President, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion. And after that, Mr. President, we have two members' motions, one from Senator Shireen Golding Campbell and the second from Senator Lambert Brown.
Sorry, just to point out, Senator Brown, yours was first in time, but because of your, I was waiting for you to return before I took it. Senator Brown.
Mr. President, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I'll move, be it resolved, that the report of the Regulations Committee of the Senate on its deliberations on the National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection Roseneath Park Housing Development Order 2024, which was laid on the table of the Senate on the 13th day of December 2024, be adopted. Mr. President, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Thank you very much, Senator Brown. Questions and answers to questions? All right, Senator Golden. Thank you, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following motion. Whereas period poverty is defined as a lack of access to menstrual products, hygiene facilities, waste management, and education, and affects many women globally, causing physical, mental, and emotional challenges. And there is growing consensus that managing menstruation is a health issue, and above all, a human rights and a gender equality issue. And whereas period poverty is known to affect women in Jamaica who constitute 45% of the workforce, as well as girls of school and menstruating age, some of whom may abstain from work and school and regular activities during their monthly cycle due to lack of access to sanitary napkins, resulting in low productivity and potential education loss. And whereas the mental and reproductive health of our women and girls is at risk if unable to secure proper and sanitary menstrual products, and whereas there is urgent need to investigate the circumstances surrounding the incidence of period poverty to provide accurate and relevant data so as to enable the formulation of sound policies to eliminate the occurrence of period poverty in Jamaica. And whereas the Bicameral Caucus of Women Parliamentarians was established in 2023 and mandated to raise awareness on gender equality, equity and parity, and engage in advocacy and lobbying on specific policy themes, and is therefore suited to examine and inquire into the circumstances surrounding the incidence of period poverty. Be it resolved that this Honorable Senate refer this motion to the Bicameral Caucus of Women Parliamentarians to inquire into the circumstances surrounding the incidence of period poverty in Jamaica, with a view to crafting actionable proposals to improve the access to sanitary menstrual products to vulnerable women and girls in Jamaica, and to formulate proposals for a policy to ensure sustainable access to be delivered to the Cabinet of Jamaica for its consideration.
Thank you, Senator Golden Campbell. Senator Brown.
Green. I prefer the red. Thank you, President. Mr. President, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following resolution. Whereas, in recent times, hundreds of Jamaican hotel workers have taken industrial actions in protest against low wages and terms of conditions at work. And whereas one such term of employment highlighted by such strikes is the precarious, repeated fixed-term contracts of employment, and whereas such practice can be abusive and oppressive and oppress workers not only in the tourism sector but throughout other sectors of our economy, and whereas the Labor Relations and Industrial Relations Act, Labor Relations and Industrial Dispute Act, it ought to be, promulgated in 1975, provides an industrial dispute can be over the engagement or non-engagement of a worker, which brings the egregious abuse of the contract work device into conflict with the spirit and intent of Jamaica's labor laws. And whereas the egregious abuse of the contract work device is at variance with the decent work agenda of the International Labor Organization, and whereas different members of the Senate have from time to time called for action to arrest the spread of this colorful abuse of the contract work device, which undermines the establishment of good industrial relations practices, be it resolved that the Senate expresses its abhorrence to the abuse of the fixed-term contract by some employers in Jamaica, and be it further resolved that the Senate calls on the government to immediately review the relevant laws with the aim of protecting Jamaican workers from such oppressive contracts. And be it further resolved that the Senate appoints a select committee to consider and recommend possible legislative approaches to eliminate the abuse of the contract work device as a means of denying workers the full range of employment-related rights and job security to which they should be legally entitled, and with respect to which they need and deserve the effective legal protection. I believe it was co-signed by Senator, no, it's signed by me, but I know I have the support of my colleague, Senator Gill. Thanks, President.
Thank you very much, both members, and I'm happy to see that the membership are taking advantage of the private members' motion to bring matters to the attention of the public, and senators recognize that it is an important way to contribute to the processes of the Senate. And I'm looking forward I'm looking forward to hearing Senator Fraser Binns' motions and certainly participating and listening to these two very interesting motions that have been put forward. Thank you very much. Questions and answers to questions. Motions that be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to the sitting of the Senate. Motions for leave to introduce bills. The presentation of bills without the leave of the Senate first obtained. Public business. Senator Hill.
Mr. President, we're looking at the road traffic licensing duties order 2024. Say it again. Actually, it was second, but I'm quite willing to have the learned Senator Braham to take your resolution at this time on the public business. So I can just go right through.
See, all of these things that are thrusted upon me. Mr. President, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier. So what I had said earlier, Mr. President, that I now move for the suspension of standing orders to enable me to take the motion of which I gave earlier.
Members will have heard the question. Those in favor? Continue, Senator Braham, please.
Mr. President, the Regulations Committee of the Senate from time to time meets to deal with regulations that may come before it, Mr. President. Under the Interpretation Act, Mr. President, those regulations that are laid before the Senate and are subject to negative resolution. And you will see that we have to have a look at it to see whether there are any issues that ought to be dealt with, particularly in terms of law, and in any event that it is otherwise properly and proper and appropriate. Mr. President, you will note that this particular one deals with issues under the National Housing Trust Act, and in particular, Mr. President, the Roseneath Park Housing Development, Mr. President, and indeed setting out particular benefits for particular categories of persons as identified. And consequently, Mr. President, earlier this week, the committee met to consider that particular resolution and our order, and has approved it, Mr. President, and I am also now commending it to the Senate for its approval.
Members would have heard Senator Braham's submissions. Those in favor? Against? Senator Hill?
Mr. President, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
Thank you. Those in favor? Against? You have several. Which one?
I'm starting with the NHT, I think.
NHT you're starting with?
Yes.
Okay. Those in favor?
Mr. President, I now move I now move for the suspension of the standing order to enable me to said that. The question is that the standing orders be suspended to enable the minister to take the motion, notice of which was given earlier. And I will now read the NHT matter. The question is that standing orders be suspended.
We have gone past that, Minister. You can start the debate by presenting the
NHT matter. If you just looking at my agenda here, Mr. President, I will make sure I get to it. Be it resolved that the following orders be referred to the Regulations Committee of the Senate for consideration and report. The National Housing Trust, housing benefits. I did go through that.
Yes, Senator Hill. So we have been through it. So I think the question is that the regulation be referred, yes, to the Regulations Committee, and I'll put that.
I asked for that, and so I'm asking you to put it.
So members would have heard the question. Let's put those in favor. Aye. Against? Next one, Minister Hill.
Is Senator Braham, did it refer to the, I know. It's, the next one is the amendment to the bill for the Constitution.
This is just in relation, Senator Hill, to approve the membership of the committee to form the committee for the Constitutional.
For the JSC for the Constitution.
Yes.
So I'm asking you to
yes, and I'll just remind the members that the proposed membership was Senator Sinclair, Braham, Campbell, Bunting, and Scott Motley. Those in favor? Thank you.
And then I have the Road Traffic Act, which I am now going to present, which is number 2.
There is a motion. You're going to just put the motion, and then I'll put it.
Mr. President, on the 15th day of November 2024, the Road Traffic License Duty Order 24 resolution was tabled in the Honorable Senate, and notice of motion was given regarding the same. Mr. President, I'll ask that the motion be approved.
Thank you, Minister. Those in favor? Yes. Press.
I haven't seen the order, so it's really hard to ask me to approve something that I don't know if anyone else has seen it on this side.
It was tabled and read on the 15th of November, you know.
It's tabled long ago.
Well, could I just ask that you could just circulate and you just delay that? I mean, so we could look at it.
It was circulated.
Senator Hill, I don't have an issue. We can revisit it after Senator Morris's.
We may not have anything, but at least let us not.
I can read the motion for you if you have.
You want him to read it, or you prefer to look at it?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, go ahead and read it, Senator Hill.
Yes. Mr. President, Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, in his address to the Parliament during the budget debate on March 16, 2023, indicated the intention of the government to provide similar incentives for the operation of electric bikes as were previously accorded for the electric cars generally. In his address, the Prime Minister stated inter alia the following: in 2022, the Electric Vehicle Strategic Framework, as well as the governing fiscal policy, was approved by the Cabinet, and the order governing importation of electric vehicles was issued. However, it restricted the importation to cars and SUVs. The government will be removing that restriction to include a wider range, including electric motorbikes. Cabinet therefore gave approval by way of Cabinet decision number 824 dated March 1824 for amendments as follows. The Customs That's Tariff Revision Amendment Resolution 2018 Customs Regulations, to reduce the import duty on electric bikes from 20% to 10%, which is the important issue here. The third schedule to the Road Traffic Act to provide an exemption from the payment of annual license fees for electric bikes. The amendments mentioned would only be for electric bikes which are 3 years old or less since the date of manufacture. It was also approved for the regime to be in place from April 1, 2024 to March 31, 2029. The incentive being provided is in keeping with Jamaica's goal of encouraging consumers to switch from internal combustion engine vehicles to vehicles which are powered by an electric motor. One important benefit of switching from internal combustion engine vehicles generally is the elimination of the current noise nuisance which exists on our roads. This is so because the electric motor which powers an electric vehicle does not engage in the activity of the burning of fuel, which produces a lot of noise. It is our further understanding that the exhaust system of electric bikes cannot be altered to produce the gunshot-like sounds, which has become frightening for the citizens of this country.
Senator Hill, you have, I'm just asking, there is a definition of bike?
Not that I have before
So
me,
just
Mr. President.
the
I'm
common
pretty sure
sense what
there's
we
one.
would know as bike?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Senator.
Yes, along those lines, Mr. President, because we've seen in recent years a lot of bicycle, what we would have called a bicycle, scooters, a number of means of conveyance that are now boosted by electric motors, even if not solely electric, these fat-tired bikes, and you see a lot of them, particularly in tourist areas and so on. And I think there's some ambiguity, certainly in my mind, and in speaking with people in the industry, there's some ambiguity at what point do these vehicles become motorcycles that need to be licensed in the sense of having a license plate on them and going through. So this matter, this resolution actually has two components. One has to do with the import duties, which is 10%, which is now
Reduced to 10%,
and which I think...
No. 20 to 10.
Well, 20 for over 3-year-old and 10 for under 3-year-old, if you actually look at the customs schedule, which is more or less in line with the other motor vehicles, electric motor vehicles. But what's not clear to me, Mr. President, is what is the distinction that is captured here? And I see you share that concern and that ambiguity. And it would be useful, I think, for us to establish where the distinction stops. Is it if the conveyance has a pedal, as what we call mopeds, where it can, which it can be electric assisted.
But I saw one where you actually ride it like a bicycle, but after a particular time the battery
you
take
get
over.
A boost from the,
so I think that Senator Hill, I
motor.
don't think he might have that information, but you could seek the information for us.
Well, I don't know what the distinction is, whether it is top speed or
We would ask him to look into it
But I know previously a distinction was made, at least in other jurisdictions, where they have pedals that can...
Sorry to cut you, but my experience with customs is that if they can get around the exemption, they will. So Senator Hill, I certainly support what Senator Bunting says, and if you can find some sort of clarity for us, we would appreciate it if you could provide it. Are you finished, Senator Bunting? Senator Brown?
I note that the order was signed on the 15th of October this year by the former, who then would have been the minister, but by the former Minister of Finance, So that it's signed by Nigel Clark. And it purports to take effect from the 1st of April 2024. What about ending this? I raise this because we live in a society that is very litigious, Senator Bryan, where the proliferation of judicial reviews are often the order of the day now, judicial review after judicial review. And I'm just trying to see if we're approving it today, whether the time frame for judicial review would start today, April, or October. And especially in light of the statement made by my friend Senator Bryan recently, how judicial review tend to be in favor of the decision makers and against the litigants who want to challenge, be it reports or order. I'm just trying to see, for the benefit of the public, whether in this judicial review, because I'm going to do one soon for another matter, but I just want to make sure that the time frame for the citizens of this country who may want to take judicial review against this. For example, Senator Hill, is this going to be for a few importers, for everybody? What is going to be the procurement method to allow people to get these concessions? I don't know, and this is why I wasn't too enthused to just run to support it. Though the benefits of electrical vehicles are becoming clearer and clearer to the society, despite your man in America not being too happy with electric vehicles. I have seen the benefit of having, whether hybrid or total electric vehicle in the country. But the one other concern I would have, as we embark upon this policy, is will this now lead to, or in any way impact, the cost of electricity? Because with more electric vehicles, we're going to have to be a greater electric usage. And this is why my concern about judicial review, because people may want to challenge it. So if you understand, and at the risk of provoking my friend who signed 121 yesterday. Sorry? It's fine with me. So I'm just simply saying, in a judicial crazy environment, is this subject to judicial review? May it please you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senator Brown. The question, I think, 1 minute. The question, I think, is, which I think is relevant, and I would address it, Minister. Eh? Beg your pardon? No, we passed that. What Senator Brown was asking was how citizens would access this. He was asking whether it is restricted to a few importers or it's across the board. Well, just say that it's across the board then.
Mr. President, there is actually no restriction. The order is very clear that we're putting in percentages for custom duty, and it applies to whoever imports one and applies for it.
Thank you very much. Senator Golden Campbell.
Yes, Mr. President, I'm rising to support the order. Not quite sure why we would have brought in things that are clearly not relevant in relation to the verbiage of the order. I'll stick to what I choose to stick to. Let me proceed. As I was saying, Mr. President, it's pretty clear to me what the order is asking us to approve. I read English, Mr. President, so my English tells me this order is pretty clear. I do agree, though, with Senator Bunting in relation to the other vehicles that he was mentioning. I had a conversation recently similar to the lines on which you and the President expressed your concerns about that. The thing that concerned me about this order when I first read it was the time restriction on the vehicles, and the question as to why we were limiting it to 3 years as opposed to allowing electric vehicles which don't have any emissions to, for people to purchase even older than 3 years. I did ask for some clarification and got it, and I know the concern is not emissions because that's not a risk with electric vehicles. But I want to urge, I understand that the batteries, more inefficient batteries, the policy is seeking to allow us to have more efficient batteries in with the newer vehicles so that we don't have a situation where we're dumping older batteries, and there's a concern in relation to that. But I understand we're still in the process of creating that position and mechanism for us to manage that kind of waste. So I am using my opportunity just to encourage us to get the relevant authorities to provide for that, because even with this policy, which will invite Jamaicans to purchase electric vehicles, it will take some pressure off of our the environmental damage that comes from the emissions from gas vehicles. We're still going to end up in a world, if we're moving in that direction, where we're dealing with batteries and we have to know what we're going to do with the batteries at the end of the life of that vehicle or the end of the life of the battery for that vehicle. So for those who have ear to hear, I'm encouraging, Mr. President, that we also ensure that we do that part of the work.
Yeah, and I don't know how relevant it is, but they have been having a problem with them in other societies because they are silent and people expect to hear a bike coming. So pedestrians tend to step out in front of them. But that's what, I guess that's education for another time. So Minister, you're asking for your... Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you, sir. I am happy to have heard the question about the time. I too am concerned if the motive is to reduce the level of emissions, why it is that 3 years was set. And even if the answer given to you was viable, it is only kicking the can down the road. Whatever period of time a new battery comes in, there will be a time that it needs to be disposed of. In addition, there's no certainty of quality of batteries unless you determine what battery it is that you will accept, because there may be a 3-year-old battery that is less efficient than a 7-year-old battery, depending on the manufacturer, etc. So if it is that there's a concern about the life of the battery, then there should be a designation of the types of batteries that qualify, that qualifies within that. Additionally, while this may encourage consumption, there is no ban on the bad batteries or the older vehicles, which again creates that negative that has not been solved with putting a year category. I also posit that the motorcycles are an alternative mostly or currently engaged by low-income individuals, which we have seen, and silence might be a reprieve for many who yeah, who have been concerned about the proliferation of bikes and the noise that they make. However, the 3-year would likely cause for cost consideration, mitigation based on cost, as more expensive vehicles would be younger vehicles, and by extension may not address the income category that my colleagues are saying something I don't really understand, but all right, they'll say it. But that income bracket that has been, what would we say, disproportionately consuming motorbikes. The age may not lead to that transition that we need. So I don't believe that the ill is corrected by the 3 years. without indicating the quality of battery and what types of battery, nor without banning the older vehicles. I don't believe the IL is satisfied for us to maintain the 3 years as a basis.
Thank you very much, Senator Crawford. And it's not without significance that this ordinary order, if you want, if I can use that adjective, has attracted such interest and contribution. So the question is that the regulation be put.
I just have one clarification.
Go ahead, please, sir.
This, if you notice the time period, this deals with customs duty, which means you're dealing with imports. It's not unusual that in the car business you have a year period for it, so we're setting the timeline is for the age of the vehicle coming in. It has to be 3 years or newer. Maybe, Mr. President, 3 years is a relatively short period of time, but the battery technology is changing, it's dynamic, so you're forced to review it. We might amend it again, but the nature of that business is that you can't have long timelines because the technology is so dynamic and changing. And I think this is fine, and it will be reviewed. If it's not working well, I'm sure it will come back here, but we have to give a short timeline. And so I ask that the matter be approved.
Members would have heard the discussion, heard the regulation, and those in favor? Against? Thank you very much, Senator Hill. And I guess we are on to Senator Morris.
Yes.
1 minute, Senator Morris. The minister is going to move for the continuation.
The continuation of the State of the Nation debate, and today we're privileged to have Professor Senator Floyd Morris.
Are we hearing from the professor or the senator today? Because it's two different things, you know. So the question is that the State of the Nation...
I'm not sure you're suggesting there are two different persons embodied in the one person, but I'm asking for Senator Morris today to address us. Mr. President.
Is that the State of the Nation debate be continued with contributions from the learned Professor Senator Floyd Morris. Those in favor?
Aye.
Senator Morris, you have the floor, and I'm giving you the same latitude that I gave Senator Sinclair, 35 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I have it recorded that he spoke for close to 60 minutes. Mr. President.
I'm giving you the same privilege, Senator Morris. No need to rush.
Mr. President, I rise to make my contribution
on.
President don't like the red microphone. It's red now. Yeah.
Ready? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I rise to make my contribution to the State of the Nation presentation. And in doing so, Mr. President, I would like to express my profound gratitude to my God and Creator for His continued guidance in my life, to my wife for her continued support. I have to express my gratitude as well to my political family and especially the leader of the opposition, Mr. Mark Golding, for the continued confidence that he has reposed in me. I also want to thank the members of this honorable chamber for their friendship, for their support, and their encouragement. You know, I've built some very good relationships in this honorable chamber on both sides of the aisle over the years, and I'm deeply grateful to all the members. Mr. President, you know, this year was very interesting, and I say it's very interesting because we have discussed this matter before, but I have to repeat it for emphasis in terms of my promotion to the rank of professor at the University of the West Indies, which has happened within the context of 75 years of that institution in the Caribbean, and it's the first time that someone with a visual disability have been elevated to that rank. And also, Mr. President, when we look and have been searching throughout Latin America and the Caribbean, it is the first time that someone with a visual disability has been promoted to the rank of professorship in any academic institution. And so I deem it a tremendous honor, because when you look at the magnitude of work that has to be done in the context of an extremely inaccessible academic environment, 95% of books that are published, 95% of books that are published are not accessible to persons with visual disabilities. And that is the context in which I have had to work in order to achieve this feat. So I deem it really a pride and joy to have been promoted to the ranks by the University of the West Indies, and will continue to push the disability agenda throughout the region. But this year, Mr. President, we are participating in the State of the Nation debate in which our country is placed in an interesting but precarious position. The fact of the matter is that 58% of the population in the latest National Public Opinion Survey is pointing that the country is going in the wrong direction. At the same time, 65% of the population is saying that Jamaica is more corrupt than before. And it's the first time in my years of tracking political development that I'm seeing this sort of perception about politics where you have 65% of those surveyed seeing the country as being more corrupt than ever before. There are significant blocks of marginalized Jamaicans who are being left behind. You talk about our senior citizens, we talk about our persons with disabilities, and we talk about our young people who are experiencing tremendous challenges and being left behind in our society today. There is a crisis in education, Senator Crawford, as manifested in what is taking place at the early childhood level, at the primary school level, at the secondary level, and at the tertiary level, where, you know, there are managerial gymnastics taking place with our public tertiary institutions in order to keep them afloat. There's a crisis in health care. Senator Lambert Brown will tell you that people have to be sharing beds in our public hospitals. There's a crisis in housing for low to middle income earners. And this is why, Mr. President, the people of Jamaica are signaling that they want change. And this is manifested in the 9.2% lead that the People's National Party is enjoying from the last public opinion poll. Mr. President, the issue of corruption is a matter that is of tremendous concern to me, because when individuals talk about corruption in the society, they immediately point fingers to individuals who are involved in politics. And all of us are being labeled and tarnished. And it has intensified in recent times because of the attacks that have been levied on the Integrity Commission of Jamaica. And I want to disassociate myself with any such attacks or statements on the part of the Integrity Commission, because the Integrity Commission is an institution that was established to protect the public resources and to ensure that we don't end up into what we would regard as a kleptocracy. And I've been talking to people across the country, and based on what they are describing to me, and they say to me as a parliamentarian, the public's perception is that we are operating a kleptocracy. And, Mr. President, I don't feel comfortable with it. And it's worse because of how we are treating an institution, the Integrity Commission, that was established to make sure that there is integrity in public life. And as for me, I stand by the Integrity Commission. And I can say, based on my colleagues, that we stand by the Integrity Commission. Mr. President, I want to say something that is very disturbing to me, because there are some inconsistencies in terms of our governance, and this is causing people to have the view that we are operating a kleptocracy and that we are a very corrupt society. And it takes me to the most recent report from the Integrity Commission, which led an investigation into a property that is owned or being built by Estate Bridge. And one of the principals, or one of the directors that is involved, is the head of two public agencies, the Housing Agency of Jamaica and the Urban Development Corporation of Jamaica. And the report pointed to some breaches that have been detected in the construction of the houses. And Mr. President, as I read the report, my memory dates back to, I think it was 2022 or somewhere thereabout. In another development in our pastures that involved the then president of the National Water Commission, Mr. Barnett, and the community's Charlie Mount in our pastures. And a similar situation existed where more rooms were built than that which was approved. And it's a similar situation here. And I want to say, Mr. President, that Mr. Barnett was required to resign from his job. And this report about Estate Bridge has been tabled in the Parliament from Tuesday of this week. And I want to say, up to this point, I have not heard anybody talking about or calling for the resignation of the chairman of UDC and HAJ, which is involved in this breach. And it is a clear hypocrisy and double standard. And I want to take this opportunity, Mr. President, to say to the chairman of the UDC and the HAJ that he must resign immediately, just like what was required by Mark Barnett, the president of the National Water Commission. It cannot be that you are setting one set of rules for one individual or one set of individuals.
Sit down there. Senator, 1 minute, Senator Morris. Senator, I know. Off time referred to as Brian, but go ahead.
That's fine. I think that the senator is at least in error concerning the resignation of Mr. Barnett. And I suggest to him that he checks it because it will show that he has not in fact resigned. I'm just saying, because I know he wants to be accurate.
I take that as a point of information. It's not a
All
point
right.
of information.
All right.
Go ahead, Senator.
All right, Mr. President.
Senator Brown, come now, man.
All right, Mr. President.
Senator Morris, go ahead, please.
Mr. President, and
what?
I
one
hear
minute,
the
1 minute, please. Senator, you are not addressing me from way up there, you know. That's where you sit nowadays. Go ahead.
I thank you, Mr. President. I take note of what was said, but
just on a point.
Yeah, man, I know, man.
What is the point of order?
I'm trying to hear myself, Mr. President.
I recognize you from a seat other than your own. What's the point of order?
This is my seat. The senator has said that more rooms were built than were approved. I would ask the senator to check that because I'm not sure that is true.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Senator Morris.
Mr. President, you know, I'm speaking to the reports that have been tabled in the Parliament, and I stand by what has been said in terms of
I think what he's saying is that the report in Parliament is saying that there was a breach of the permit in terms of the number of rooms.
Right.
But I think that what he's in fact saying is that the directors have indicated that there is no such breach. That's all he's saying.
Well, I'm speaking to the report. I'm not speaking to. Yes. I think the mayor is trying to protect himself because he was the mayor at the time when the breaches were.
Look, I'm not going to, Senator, no, 1 minute.
Mr. President.
Senator Williams, I'm not going to countenance the continuous interruption after this one. Go ahead.
Thanks very much.
Come now, let's go.
Mr. President.
1 minute, Senator Morris.
Without saying much, I would just caution you because I'm pretty sure that the KSAMC would have done its inspections.
No, you can't.
And what's the point of order? 1 minute, please, Senator.
Saying because
go ahead, Senator Williams. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, Senator, be cautious because I'm not sure more rooms were built than were approved.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator Williams.
I'm saying that we are not.
Senator Williams.
So I am saying, I'm just making that point.
Thank you very much.
And history will bear us
Thank
out
you very much.
that I am
Mr.
not sure you're right.
Mr. President.
Senator Williams, thank you very much.
All I'm saying.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
let's go.
I want to repeat my call. I want to repeat my call for the chairman for the Urban Development Corporation and the Housing Agency of Jamaica to tender his resignation immediately because of what has transpired in this report. It is a disgrace. Mr. President, if we are going to win back the trust and confidence of the Jamaican people, people have to be held accountable for their actions. And this is one means. This should be the start. And we must stop, hug up, and embrace these corrupt practices. Because once we do it, we are ourselves engaging in a corrupt practice. Mr. President, you know, housing is a very topical issue. And every Jamaican wants to own their own house. And the fact of the matter is, Mr. President, that housing is seen as a right by various international charters and treaties. And we have seen over the years various initiatives to provide affordable housing for our citizens. But within the last 8 or so years, Mr. President, we have seen an escalation in the price of houses for our citizens. And you would believe, Mr. President, that the government would be the institution that would seek to do everything to make sure that affordable houses are provided for the citizens. But instead, over the last 8 years, government has been contributing to the escalation in the cost of housing in the country. And again, Mr. President, I want to make reference to the lots that were sold in the development above Pines of Karachi and nestled between Long Mountain and Beverly Hills. A development where the lands were owned by the HAJ. And Mr. President, those lots were sold for between $25 and $30 million. Just the lot alone. You don't start talk about the construction of the house. And Mr. President, I find it very ironic that the housing portfolio falls under the responsibility of no other than the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister, who is responsible for HAJ and is designated by law as corporation sole, would have known about the sale of these lots for $25 million to citizens. And now, lots alone. Lots alone. And now I heard the Prime Minister, because I listen to him, and I read things that he says. I heard the Prime Minister yesterday speaking at a function for NHT and saying that the NHT is now going to focus on affordable housing over the next couple of years. The question is, who or why was the focus on the higher end of the housing market over the past 8 years by this government? Misdirection in terms of public policy. The National Housing Trust was built primarily to provide affordable housing for our citizens. And we say, hail the man, Michael Joshua Manley, for establishing the National Housing Trust in 1976. And that institution has been a beacon in the Jamaican society. And almost 300,000 houses over the past almost 50 years in the existence of the NHT. Significant. But what we have seen, though, over the past 8 years, is a sort of reduction in terms of the build-out of the National Housing Trust in terms of affordable housing. Because based on data, for example, last year, the NHT never built 2,000 houses. Never built 2,000 houses. And that is why I was amazed at the buncombe that was spoken by Senator Charles Sinclair in his last presentation to say that the administration has built 70,000 houses since they are in power. It's just as if he's taking out something out of a hat and just come and repeat nonsense in the honorable chamber. You know, 70,000 houses, absolute craziness. The government has not built 70,000 houses since it has been in power in 2016. And Mr. President, you know, I take note that the Prime Minister has been speaking about social housing, and I commend any effort to provide social housing for the most vulnerable and marginalized within our society. But when I look at the data carefully as the opposition spokesperson on housing and sustainable living, and see that the Prime Minister has built 300 social houses over a 9-year period. 300 over 9. Damien, help me out, please, quickly. That is probably about 33 or so houses per year. And my mathematical calculation based on the information provided to us by the Prime Minister publicly, that there is a demand for 8,000 social houses. I am using his own data. 8,000 social houses. He has built 300 in 9 years. It means mathematically that it will take 240 years.
Point of order, sir.
Point of order. Well, let me hear what this is.
The new social housing program came into being in 2018. So when the senator professes to tell the Senate that the program has been around for 9 years, he's in fact misleading the Parliament of Jamaica. I'd advise him to comport himself accordingly and correct that misinformation. Thank you, sir.
I see.
But hold on a little bit. Senator Brown, you hear me say it's a valid point of order. Didn't I ignore it?
No, I know you're not saying it.
Senator. Senator Morris, continue, please. Thank you for that, Senator.
Mr. President,
Brown.
I empathize with Senator Fitzhenry because I know it touched him very much, you know. But the truth is, Mr. President, if it is 8 years or if it is 9 years, it is still going to make the matters worse. 240 years it will take at the rate at which we are going, at which the rate at which the Prime Minister is going. 240 years for the demand for houses, social houses to be filled. 240 years. And I want to say that the Prime Minister, who is beating his chest about these social houses, and based on the data in terms of the number of houses being built at the NHT, the Prime Minister has been a colossal failure when it comes on to housing and as Minister of Housing. Colossal failure. Check the data. Check the data. Check the data. Mr. President, I want to say that the People's National Party has been at the forefront of driving the housing development in our country. And the time has come for the real housing transformation to take place. And we have signaled through the leader of the opposition that upon taking over governance of the country, we are going to immediately end the annual extraction of $11.4 billion from the NHT to give budgetary support to make sure that the NHT have sufficient funds to contribute to the housing development in our country. We want that $11.4 billion to go back into the institution to make sure that it carry out its mandate. That should have ended in 2017. And the government at the time, whilst they were in opposition, said that they were going to, it was a cruel act. And they even had a surrogate to take it to court. And they have extended it for 9 more years because it goes up until 2026. Mr. President, we believe that we have to capitalize the NHT to make sure that it carries out its original mandate to build houses for the people. Build houses for the people. And Mr. President, we are going to be embarking on major legislative review to ensure that we use all the possible tools to provide affordable housing for our people. Because the data is suggesting that we are going to need about 80,000 houses to deal with the demand in the market. And the significant portion of that demand is for low to middle income housing. And we are going to be putting forward, Mr. President, a number of initiatives that will benefit our young people, persons with disabilities, and even our senior citizens. Because, for example, Mr. President, we are going to be partnering with the church community in building retirement homes for our senior citizens because the churches own significant parcels of land. And we want to partner with them in order to build out affordable housing for our senior citizens. And Mr. President, when we roll out our housing plan, our young people will understand and realize why it is that the People's National Party is a housing government. Because we are going to make sure that a percentage of all those housing developments that we will embark on, our seniors, our young people stand to benefit, whether it be through the rent-to-buy initiative or just making sure that a percentage of those houses are reserved for young people who are contributors to the National Housing Trust. Mr. President, the leader of the opposition spoke about an initiative that we believe is going to contribute significantly to the transformation of housing development in our country. The program for the orderly renewal and transformation of infrastructure in all areas, what we dub the Portia Initiative, to make sure that we regentrify communities that have fallen apart over the past couple of years. We are going to embark on completing those Operation Pride schemes that have been abandoned by this administration. And I have toured, Mr. President, a number of Operation Pride developments. And all the people want is for the government to come and assist them in making sure that where they live is habitable and accessible. And Mr. President, I make no apology in terms of my endorsement and embracement of Operation Pride, because Pines of Karachi is an Operation Pride development. Long Mountain is an Operation Pride development. Melrose News is an Operation Pride development. Bel Air is an Operation Pride development. Norwich Heights in Portland is an Operation Pride development. And you just need to go and talk to the people about what? Don't talk about corruption. You don't talk about corruption. Mr. President, one of the things that we are going to have to do in order to assist in driving down the cost of houses is to ensure that we build a skill bank with all those tradesmen across the country, those masons, those carpenters, those steelmen, and so forth, and make sure that they are upgraded in terms of their training with the HEART NSTA, and to make sure that these individuals are able to benefit from the housing transformation that will be taking place under our leadership. Because you have a situation, Mr. President, where people build on their own land, and they want to have individuals from their community who can assist in the construction of their houses. But these individuals have to be trained, these individuals have to be skilled, and we want to forge a partnership with them to make sure that they assist in the build-out of affordable houses for citizens in their communities. We're going to be giving you a fulsome outline of what our housing plans are, but what I'm giving you is a little prips, as they would say.
Thank you very much. Your time is, Speaker's time is completed. Senator Hill.
Given that we want to extend the courtesy to the Speaker to the complete, we ask that we extend sufficient time to Senator Morris to finish his
Thank you very much.
submission.
Thank you, Senator Hill. The question is that Senator Morris will permit the time sufficient to complete his presentation. In favor? Thank you, Senator Morris. Please continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I will tell you that half of that time has been taken up by the government, who has been interrupting my presentation. And I can say how effective the presentation is because I have the government on their toes. That is what the opposition is supposed to do. Mr. President, we are committed to ensuring that when we assume governance of the country, we provide affordable housing for all citizens. And we are going to ensure that at minimum, the contributors from the NHT, when they get their benefit, it would be aligned to at least the cost of a one-bedroom in the housing market. At least, because it is very difficult for a lot of the contributors to find the additional money outside to really purchase their units. And that is something that we are prepared to go implement upon assuming government. So, Mr. President, we are very much the housing government, and the evidence have been there over the years, because if you look at Port More and what it is now, you will understand. When you look at Hope Pastures and Mona and Arbor View, you will understand what a People's National Party government is about. And then you traverse the parishes across the island, and every housing scheme that you see there must be attributed. And I must say Cornwall Court in Montego Bay as well. And farmers all over attributed to the work of various People's National Party administration. So, Mr. President, the real housing transformation will soon take place. And I say to the Jamaican citizens, don't worry, help is on the way, because time comes. Time comes. Mr. President, I could not complete my presentation without referencing our senior citizens. Without referencing our senior citizens. Our senior citizens, Mr. President, constitute 13.2% of our population. And most recently, this honorable chamber approved a motion that I had tabled, and the matter is going to be considered by a select committee, which we will be meeting very shortly to start the work. But yes, I am a member of the committee. I want to say that whatever happens at that committee, the opposition is committed to enacting legislation to protect the rights and dignity of our senior citizens when we take over government in the not too distant future. It is a commitment that we are making to our senior citizens. It originated with me tabling the motion in 2021 and the Senate approving in 2024. And we are going to follow through with our commitment where that is concerned. Mr. President, our population of persons with disabilities have been experiencing a number of challenges, and I have spoken about them consistently in this chamber. And one of them is the high levels of unemployment among the population of persons with disabilities. We have done research, and it's not just me alone, but we have done research that shows upwards of 90% of the population of persons with disabilities in Jamaica unemployed. And that is why I always, whenever I hear about low unemployment in Jamaica, I say to myself, what about the population of persons with disabilities? Aren't they considered in these calculations? Because if they are, I am certain that the data would reflect a higher unemployment rate, because 90% upwards of the population of persons with disabilities are not being reflected in the labor market. And I want to say to members of the community of persons with disabilities that the Mark Golding-led administration, Mark Golding, the son of Sir John Golding, will ensure that progressive programs and policies are put in place to ensure that they are reflected in the labor market. Help is on the way. Mr. President, I know that Senator Dana Morris has just taken over the portfolio in terms of education. And I have some hope there, because she has connections with the community of persons with disabilities. And I know, and I'm looking forward to some programs and policies being implemented to ensure that persons with disabilities are brought in the mainstream of the education system. But I say, Senator Morris Dixon, you have a short window to operate, because in the not too distant future, we are going to ensure that we implement the corrective measures to ensure that persons with disabilities are brought in the mainstream of our education system. It cannot be that our Constitution make primary education a right, yet still a significant block of our schools at the primary level and at the secondary level, but I am talking about the right to primary education, that a significant block of our primary schools are not equipped to deal with our children with disabilities. And I must say that the Disabilities Rights Tribunal is in place, which is a creature of law that has been formulated by the People's National Party administration. And the government must be aware of this institution and that it is exposed, because if corrective measures are not put in place, you're going to find a situation where a parent turns up at a school with a child with a disability at the primary level and is turned back, and then the Disability Rights Tribunal will have to intervene. And I am pretty sure that our spokesperson on education, when he becomes the Minister of Education, will deal with that particular matter. So, Mr. President, we are committed to transforming the Jamaican society. And we are committed to transforming the Jamaican society by ensuring that we stand with the institution that has been established to fight against corruption in the Jamaican society, the Integrity Commission. We are committed to ensuring that we lead the housing transformation by making sure that we provide affordable houses for our people. It is not about talk, it is about substance, and we are going to be rolling out a suite of measures to provide affordable housing for our people. We are going to be making sure, Mr. President, that we implement legislation to protect our senior citizens. And we are going to ensure that we put in place programs and policies to provide employment for our persons with disabilities and to make sure that they are included in the education system. And I say, Mr. President, let the transformation begin, because time comes, Mr. President. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Morris. Senator Hill.
Mr. President, that we suspend the bill?
Yes, Senator Hill. The question is that the State of the Nation debate be suspended for a day.
For a day to be suspended. But we want to bring this, and then to bring this to bring this charade to a close, Mr. President, we do not contemplate any further business.
The question is, 1 minute, the question is that the State of the Nation debate be suspended for a date to be announced. Those in favor?
That's right.
Senator Hill, I know that you're not contemplating any further business, but I just wish to make a few remarks since it is the last meeting, or may very well be the last meeting for 2024, and I suspect that both you and Senator Bunting may have a few words of cheer to offer. First of all, I want to thank all the members of the Senate on both sides for the contributions that you have made over the last year. It is a pleasure to have sat here as your president and participated in my own way in the debates, and I'm confident that as I sit here next year at this time, I would be able to offer some equal. 1 minute, Senator. 1 minute, Senator. 1 minute, Senator Hill. So I wish you all the best for the Christmas. Some of you I'll see, some of you I won't. But all the best to your family, extended family, during this time of cheer. I want to thank also the members of staff here, the clerk and her office. We have been undergoing some changes, Madam Ms. Lowe, and we are seeing, in my view anyway, we are seeing the effects of the efforts that you are making and we are grateful. Wish your staff all the best. To the orderlies who see to our comfort here in the days when we meet, thank you very much to all of you, and congratulations on your national award again. And to the marshal, who I have not yet had occasion to call to restore physical order in the chamber. But then 2025 holds many, many prospects. To our signer, thank you very much for all that you have done. You know that you and I have some differences, but I don't know if you notice that when I'm speaking, she's very honest and enthusiastic. But thank you very much for all that you have done, not only for the work that you do, but for your advocacy for persons with hearing disabilities on a wider scale. Thank you very much for all that you have done. And of course, to the members of the security forces, and to journalists and the not court reporters, stenographers. You're going to have some time. You're going to, yeah, you're going to have, I'm getting there now. I'm getting there. The stenographers, thank you very much. We really appreciate it and the way you respond to requests for transcripts, etc. I have not, as I mentioned, the security forces who secure the building and our office. I am satisfied that we have made some improvement over the last year under the guidance of the clerk. We have a new deputy clerk. We have some excellent young persons who have come in from private practice to join the staff as legal officers. So I'm satisfied that we have made some progress, and I'm satisfied that 2025 will be a good year in which we can continue to bring the Parliament up to speed in terms of what it is that we provide for the nation. Members would have noticed that Senator Webby has provided us with our usual basket gift of chair. Members from the government side, those baskets are in my office. So as we express our gratitude to Senator Webby for his usual kindness at this time of the year, just wish to let him know, because I suspect that he's watching, that he remains in our prayers. And we are very grateful for the gift that he has so generously provided to all of us. So Don, wherever you are, thank you very much. I hope you and your family enjoy a quiet, restful Christmas season. Minister Hill.
Mr. President, you've done a very comprehensive thank you. I just want to mention that the leader of government business is away on business in Japan, and I'm conveying her kind regards and thank you in a fashion that I could never do it up to her standard. But I try, Mr. President. She would be happy to say today that what we've achieved over the past year has been very good, and in spite of the wonderful camaraderie, frankly, that I've sometimes sometimes enjoyed. And Mr. President, I'm sure you'll explain to Senator Brown afterwards the difference between camaraderie and that other word. So for all my colleagues, really, from across the aisle, but especially on this side of the aisle, for the work that we've all done, for the fun we've had sometimes, and for the patience that we've had to extend to each other sometimes. For all that, we're very grateful. For the staff who've been with us, the young clerical staff, the clerk, the deputy clerk, Ms. Brandon, all the other people who are here, good to see you. Marshall, of course, whose service we're very happy that you've never had to use. For you, Mr. President, for the kind of interjections that you make from day to day, from time to time, that carry a sense of weight that we don't normally hear in the Senate. We're pleased for it. You've guided us well. You've come prepared often. And on the rare occasion that you've had to not be here, I want to thank Senator Sinclair for sitting in. So to all my Senate colleagues, all those who have visited us during the year, all who have made presentations, including their wonderful professor today, in spite of the charade behind you, we thank you for your presentation. For all my colleagues, from my family to yours, a very happy Christmas, and God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the opposition senators, and indeed the opposition, I too would like to extend compliments of the season to all parliamentarians, but particularly senators and the staff of Parliament. I don't want to say that this will be my valedictory address in the Senate, but it certainly will be my last Christmas greetings that I will be extending from this position, from this seat. And in doing so, I really want to thank the staff of Parliament for all that they've done. I want to thank those colleagues who have contributed in a spirit of nationalism and goodwill, and those who are able to restrain their tribalism. I want to hope, I want to wish and hope for, I'm not going to name individual officers, the clerk and everything. I'm not going to name Afghan. I'm not going to name Afghan. I want to especially to hope for the staff of Parliament and Parliament's commissions that in the new year, they will be treated with respect, with gratitude, and that there will be no...
But Senator Mountain, a point of order, they also have to treat us with respect.
Could you allow... Could you stop
Mr. Twinson, that's not a point of order.
Mr. President, that's not a point of order. But I see, I would also wish for you that you, in the new year, are able to restrain yourself from entering into the debates. No, you will be indoor here. And that you will achieve the highest levels of impartiality in presiding over the Senate. But as I said, my best wishes for the season and for a successful new year for all. Thank you.
Minister. Oh, I'm sorry. The new facility is open downstairs. If you're not even coming to have a meal, pass, have a look at it, have a refreshment also if you're not planning to eat lunch. Yes, it's there, but I know that anyway. Senator Bunting is sponsoring Christmas lunch. So, yeah, please pass and look at the facility, whether or not you're having lunch there, and join us there. Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead, Senator. I forgot to mention that.
Mr. President, it's not contemplated we'll do any further business for the day, so I'm asking that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed.
Thank you. The question is that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed. Those in favor? Against? This Honorable Senate now stands adjourned for a date to be fixed, presumably, God's willing, in 2025.
Here we go. Tycoon Bunting is paying for lunch, man. Just come down and eat lunch.
For anyone wanting to learn a skill, to get free training through the Heart NSTA Trust. Learn a new skill and expand your horizons.
Jamaicans, practice proper disposal of garbage, and if items can be reused, recycle them. We all have a part to play in protecting our environment from pollution. We are building Jamaica.
Heart NSTA Trust now offers a $100,000 grant to heart-trained individuals running businesses for over a year. They'll also assist with business planning, marketing, skill enhancement, and other support. Your government is building a caring economy for you.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Your safety and security continue to be our priority. We are seeing a downward trend in major crimes, and we are investing $650 million in technology improvement for our police force to provide greater coverage across Jamaica by 2028.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Heart NSTA Trust now offers a $100,000 grant to heart-trained individuals running businesses for over a year. They'll also assist with business planning, marketing, skill enhancement, and other support. Your government is building a caring economy for you.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Come July, your NHT home improvement loan will increase to $3.5 million for qualifying applicants. Your government is caring for you.
Motorists, as Minister of Justice, I appeal to you, obey the road code, pay your ticket on time, and only go to court if the ticket is being contested. Close to 80% of matters coming to the parish courts are for traffic breaches. Let's work together to make our roads safe and ease the burden on our courts.
Jamaica's report on the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) to the United Nations was put together after nearly 50 consultations with Jamaicans across the country.
We, the GHTA, have already encouraged community tourism, which is aiding in spreading the wealth generated from tourism to every Jamaican. 2, the diversification of the tourism marketing sector, which has resulted in a greater participation in the sector.
As Chairman of the Parliamentary Services Adolescent Health Committee, And that committee has been doing well in giving suggestions on how to improve our services, especially within our parish.
In 2015, I did a research with the Ministry of Health, and we did a project called the All-In. I worked with Ms. Kelly as well, the All-In Steering Committee, and I was the adolescent chairperson. And we worked with 25 focus countries. Adolescent Health Committee was present at Portland Public Hospital. That was from my research. That's the young people's legacy. You have power.
We choose conventional farming because it is sustainable, it puts money in our pockets. My passion right now is to see St. Thomas drive forward.
We need to get into the cities, into the community, and engage those persons in sports, in entertainment, in business. And you see the real transformation of lives of people.
Declare the initial staging of Go for the Goals Roadshow officially open. Thank you.
If you have ever experienced any form of inequality, please stand and let all our voices be added to this debate on sustainable development goals. More specifically, goal number 5, gender equality. I thank you.
The focus of the discussion, therefore, has to be on the how. That is, how do we make Agenda 2030 a reality here in Jamaica? One of the things that I am committed to is to implement, to get things done.
Stay in the conversation on sustainable development on your preferred social media platform and look for the Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, Vision 2030 Jamaica, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, and the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, Jamaica.
Jamaica's economy is in the best shape ever. Everybody abroad and abroad talk about it. Your government is investing in our hospitals, parks, community clinics, roads, and water infrastructure.
Most major illnesses that affect Jamaicans are caused by unhealthy lifestyles. Over 50% of Jamaicans are overweight. 1 in 3 Jamaicans has high blood pressure. 1 in 8 Jamaicans has diabetes. 17% of Jamaicans have high cholesterol. A healthy lifestyle can reduce the risk of most of these diseases. Things like regular exercise and adequate rest can play an important role in maintaining good health. The other major consideration is eating healthy. The question is, how do you walk into a restaurant or fast food outlet and identify the healthier menu items? Better For You is an initiative to help Jamaicans to eat healthier. Restaurants and fast food outlets can voluntarily participate by identifying the items on their menu that meet the food-based dietary guidelines for Jamaica. These menu items would be easily identified with the Better For You logo, so customers can quickly identify healthier meal options by looking at the menu or menu board. Once they see the Better For You logo, they can confidently order that menu item, knowing that it's a healthier choice. Better For You will help Jamaicans to make better choices and prompt restaurants to add better options to their menu. Better For You is better for everyone. Good health begins with better choices.
No more guarantors for student loan. Your government cares about your education, and we don't want you to ever have to worry about going to university. The Students' Loan Bureau has a loan for you so you can focus on your future.
We want a peace for Jamaica. We have to be our brother's keeper. Jamaica live good, and make we enjoy life. What we feel safe at night. Jamaica live good, I better you and I. No say we future bright. Jamaica